What if I told you that some of the most dominant, most celebrated rugby players on the planet didn't grow up with fancy training academies, expensive boots, or even guaranteed meals? What if the players you've cheered for on the biggest stages in World Rugby, World Cups, Super Rugby Finals, Six Nations showdowns, started life with almost nothing? Today, we're counting down 8 rugby stars who grew up in poverty before achieving fame, fortune, and glory. And trust me, by the time we get to number 1, you might just have a tear in your eye. Stay with me, this one's worth it. Kicking things off at number 8, we've got England's towering lock and blindside flanker, Courtney Lowes. Now, Courtney is someone who's become a symbol of English rugby. The guy is an absolute warrior on the pitch, aggressive in the lineout, ferocious in the tackle, the kind of player who opposing teams genuinely don't want to run at. But here's what a lot of people don't know. The road to getting there wasn't smooth at all. Courtney grew up in Northampton, and his early life was far from comfortable. He was raised in a challenging environment where money was tight and stability wasn't always guaranteed. His family faced real financial hardship, and for a young Courtney, rugby wasn't just a passion, it became an escape, a way out. What's remarkable is that even without the resources that some young players take for granted, Courtney developed into one of the most physically imposing players England has ever produced. He didn't have everything handed to him, he worked for it, he grinded for it. And when you watch him play, that ferocity, that edge, maybe now you understand where some of that comes from. Hardship has a way of building something in a person that no amount of comfortable living ever could. Courtney Lowes went from a tough upbringing in the East Midlands to becoming an England captain. Not bad at all. Coming in at number 7, we've got one of the most physically intimidating wingers to ever play the game, the Fijian giant Nemani Nadalo. If you've never seen this man play, let me paint you a picture. He's listed at around 120 kilograms. He runs like a freight train, and somehow he also has footwork that makes defenders look completely lost. He is a nightmare to defend against, and he knows it. But before the Super Rugby contract, before the international caps, Nemani's story starts in Fiji, a beautiful country that, for many of its people, comes with very real economic hardship. Growing up in Fiji, life for Nemani and his family was modest at best. The kind of upbringing where you appreciate every single thing you have, because you know what it means to go without. Rugby in Fiji is more than a sport. It's a lifeline. It's a culture. It's one of the few pathways that can take a young man from a small island nation and put him on a world stage. And Nemani grabbed that pathway with both hands. He eventually made his way to professional rugby in New Zealand and beyond, representing Fiji with enormous pride every time he pulled on that jersey. And every time he runs over a defender, and he runs over a lot of them, you're watching someone who never forgot where he came from. At number 6, we travel to Cameroon and then to France because the story of Serge Betsen is one that crosses continents before it reaches the top of World Rugby. Serge Betsen is widely regarded as one of the best open sides France ever produced. Quick, intelligent, relentless, the guy was a menace at the breakdown. England fans in particular will remember him well from the 2003 World Cup final, where he had Johnny Wilkinson in his pocket for much of the match. But here's where his story gets really powerful. Betsen was born in Cameroon, and his early years were defined by poverty and hardship. When his family eventually moved to France, life didn't instantly become easy. Immigrant families in France face their own set of challenges, social, economic, cultural, and the Betsen family was no different. Resources were scarce, the path forward wasn't obvious. But Serge found rugby, and rugby found him. And when you combine raw hunger with genuine talent, something special tends to happen. He became a Biarritz legend, he became a French international, he went to multiple World Cups, and he did it all coming from a background that gave him very little to start with. What Serge Betsen represents is something we see time and again in this list. The idea that adversity, rather than holding you back, can become the very thing that drives you forward.
Halfway through our list and we're back to Fiji, because honestly, when it comes to stories of rising from humble beginnings to rugby greatness, Fiji keeps delivering. Semi Radradra. Where do you even begin with this man? He started his professional sporting career not in rugby union, not even in rugby league, but as a rugby league player in the NRL in Australia. And he was extraordinary. Explosive pace, ridiculous footwork, a genuine superstar in the making. But behind all the highlights was a story rooted in real struggle. Semi grew up in Fiji in modest, difficult circumstances. His family didn't have wealth. His community didn't have resources. What they had was toughness, resilience, and a love for the game of rugby in all its forms. Semi carried all of that with him when he eventually made the journey to Australia to pursue professional sport. Then came his switch to rugby union, which raised a few eyebrows at first, and what followed was nothing short of phenomenal. He became one of the most feared outside backs in world rugby. Bordeaux in France, Bristol Bears, Bath, and of course, Fiji on the international stage, where he has consistently been their most dangerous weapon. Every time Semi Radradra gets the ball in space, you hold your breath. The man is electric, and knowing where he came from makes it even more remarkable.
Now we're getting into the top 4, and things are getting seriously emotional. Number 4, Michael Leach, the man who led Japan to arguably the greatest upset in Rugby World Cup history. If you watched the 2015 Rugby World Cup, you know the moment. Japan versus South Africa, the Springboks, multiple World Cup winners, one of the most powerful nations in rugby, and Japan pulled off a victory that had the entire rugby world standing up and rubbing their eyes in disbelief. That Japan team was led by Michael Leach, and the captain's performance that day was nothing short of heroic. But here's the thing about Michael Leach that makes his story cut a little deeper. He was born in Fiji and had a genuinely tough childhood. Financial hardship, instability, the kind of early years that don't set you up for an easy life. At the age of 15, he moved to Japan as part of a rugby scholarship program, alone in a foreign country with a different language and culture surrounding him. Think about that for a second. 15 years old, new country, no family around. Most of us couldn't handle that as adults, let alone as teenagers. But Leach embraced it. He learned the language, he immersed himself in the culture, he committed fully to Japan, and Japan embraced him right back. He became not just a rugby player in Japan, but a national icon, a symbol of what the country's rugby program could achieve. From poverty in Fiji to leading Japan on the world stage, Michael Leach's story is the stuff of movies.
The top 3, and we start with the man who many consider the best lock forward in the world, Maro Itoje. Now, Maro's story is a little different from some of the others on this list, but it's no less powerful. He was born in London to Nigerian immigrant parents, and while his family was not living in extreme poverty, they navigated the very real challenges that come with being an immigrant family building a life from scratch in a new country. There was no silver spoon. There was no pre-laid path to greatness. There were 2 parents who worked incredibly hard to give their children opportunity, and a son who refused to waste it. What makes Maro Itoje extraordinary isn't just his rugby, although the rugby is breathtaking. It's his awareness, his voice, his willingness to speak up about social issues, inequality, and the experiences of people who look like him. He is not just a rugby player, he is a thinker, an advocate, and a role model. On the pitch, he is disruptive in the best possible way. Line-out dominance, breakdown pest, carries with aggression. He makes life very difficult for anyone who lines up against him. He's been a cornerstone of the Saracens dynasty and a leader for England. But the reason Maro Itoje earns his place in this list is because behind the profile and the fame is a foundation built on sacrifice, his parents' sacrifice, and his own relentless drive to honor it.
Number 2, and yes, before you say it, Beauden Barrett grew up on a farm in New Zealand, and farms aren't typically associated with poverty.
But hear me out, because the Barrett family story is genuinely one of the most remarkable in rugby history. Beauden Barrett is the son of Kevin Barrett, a former rugby player who raised his family in Pungarehu, a tiny remote community on the west coast of New Zealand's North Island. They lived a simple rural life, no extravagance, no luxury, just hard work, fresh air, and rugby. Lots of rugby. Kevin and his wife raised 5 sons, and 4 of them went on to play professional rugby. 4 sons, professional rugby players. That doesn't happen by accident, and it doesn't happen without genuine sacrifice from parents who put everything into their children. Beauden himself became arguably the greatest first 5/8 New Zealand has ever produced, which, given the All Blacks' history at that position, is an extraordinary statement. 2 World Rugby Player of the Year awards, multiple Super Rugby titles, a World Cup winner. And through it all, he stayed grounded. He stayed connected to that small community in Pungarehu. He never forgot what it meant to grow up without much, in a place most people have never heard of, with a family that believed in hard work above everything else. Sometimes poverty of excess, growing up without distractions, without entitlement, with nothing but hard graft and love, produces the very best.
And here we are, number 1. There was only ever going to be one name at the top of this list, Siya Kolisi. Siya Kolisi was born in Zwide, a township in Port Elizabeth, South Africa. And when we talk about poverty on this list, Siya's story sits in a category all of its own. This was not simply financial struggle, this was survival. Growing up in Zwide, Siya experienced things that most people in the world will never have to face: extreme poverty, hunger, real hunger, not knowing if there would be food, watching family members suffer, watching his community gripped by the kinds of challenges that come with generations of inequality and hardship in post-apartheid South Africa. His mother passed away when he was young. His father struggled. Siya was largely raised by his grandmother in a home where resources were almost non-existent. There were days, many days, where there simply wasn't enough food. And then rugby found him. He earned a scholarship to Grey High School in Port Elizabeth, one of South Africa's most prestigious rugby schools. And suddenly, this boy from Zwide was in a completely different world. It wasn't easy. It was culture shock. It was pressure. But Siya Kolisi handled it with a grace and a determination that told you everything about his character. He rose through the ranks. He made it to the Stormers. He became a Springbok. And then, on the 2nd of November 2018, he was named the first Black African captain of the South African national rugby team. The weight of that moment is almost impossible to put into words. In a country with South Africa's history, with everything that the Springbok jersey has represented, both the beauty and the pain, Siya Kolisi standing there as captain meant everything. And then came 2019, the Rugby World Cup final in Japan, South Africa versus England, and Siya Kolisi, the boy from Zwide who didn't always know where his next meal was coming from, lifted the Webb Ellis Cup as captain of the world champions. So there you have it, 8 rugby stars who rose from poverty to the pinnacle of world rugby. And what ties every single one of these men together isn't just talent, it's hunger, it's resilience, it's the understanding that nothing is given, everything is earned.